Welcome back to the Plenteous Redemption Podcast. Our topic today, abstract of Christian philosophy, personal development. Let's get started.
Welcome to the Plenteous Redemption Podcast, where the cross and the culture are on a collision course for discussion.
For the preaching of the cross is to them that perish foolishness. But unto us which are saved it is the power of God. For it is written, I will destroy the wisdom of the wise, and will bring to nothing the understanding of the prudent. Where is the wise? Where is the scribe? Where is the disputer of this world? Hath not God made foolish the wisdom of this world? For after that in the wisdom of God the world by wisdom knew not God, it pleased God by the foolishness of preaching to save them that believe. For the Jews require signs, and the Greeks seek after wisdom, but we preach Christ crucified. Unto the Jews a stumbling block, unto the Greeks foolishness, but unto them which are called both Jews and Greeks, Christ, the power of God and the wisdom of God.
Now, here's your host, Thomas Irvin.
This audio will not be a self-help pep talk, but rather an honest conversation regarding personal development. Have you considered how you will provide an intellectual foundation for your development? Or have you decided to drift through life disengaged and unprepared to provide an answer for the hope that is within you? In today's landscape, education generally derives from one of two sources. First is that of the secular landscape, an area filled with landmines. Secular education is overwhelmingly activist and ungodly. If your Christian child is attending a secular university, I am inclined to accuse you of parental malpractice and maybe even child abuse in some cases. This idea is not hyperbole, but objectively driven, and most Christian parents knew this beforehand. However, let me now say you are warned yet again. The only narrow exception to this is studies in mathematics or sciences. However, even their students will be subject to atheistic Darwinian evolutionist professors, which is far different from the woke activists that dominate every other area of study. The second option is to settle for second-rate Christian universities that, like harlots, sell out over time for personal interest. Most Christian universities are so compromised and liberal, they are repulsive. These are centers of education that will teach your children to be great Laodicean church members. While students may not be overly influenced by Darwin or communists, they will learn to be spewed out of the Lord's mouth. Modern universities have rejected the profound impact of educational theory and knowledge. There was a point to education at one time in history. That point was not the spread of activist propaganda, and it was not diluted Christian ethics mixed with subpar education. Universities, Christian or secular, once had a measure of character and purpose. They were honorable institutions that produced strong and capable minds. As fundamental Christians, we probably never agreed with all they taught, but the trade-off was at one time very reasonable. This criticism is more than merited. We have arrived in a place when the local church Bible Institute is more valuable than ever. Apart from that, Christians will need to be responsible for their own self-development. Otherwise, enter a secular university and come out a pink-haired, gender-confused activist. Alternatively, enter a Christian university and come out a proud member of Laodicea. Discipline. Personal development will require discipline. As a personal practice, discipline is highly sought after as though it were an unavailable commodity. Books, videos, seminars, and coaches are available in mass quantity on the subject, yet it is still scarce. There exists an underlying notion in the collective human conscience regarding the need for discipline in attaining success. We are impressed by athletes, military personnel, writers, speakers, and accomplished persons who illustrate discipline's role in their success. However, with ample objective proof available, few ever apply it to their lives. This one commodity is free to possess and as abundantly available as the oxygen we breathe. All men appear to desire discipline, but few are willing to apply it to their area of responsibility. They stare at it from afar off, gazing at this spectacle as though it were just beyond their reach. They will buy books, they will binge watch the videos, and attend seminars, all to no avail. For one to be successful in personal development, discipline is required. We must stop staring at it as though it were some alien creature from a galaxy far away. We are repeatedly instructed in God's word to discipline our flesh. We are to bring our bodies under and bring every thought into subjection to Jesus Christ. To accomplish this once in the moment is an anomaly. However, to accomplish this daily across time is discipline. As Christians, our goals are not short-term. They have eternal implications. We may use short-term goals to reach the eternal end, but we cannot afford to be short-sighted. Living in this manner will require breaking from the norms of a fast-paced, self-indulgent consumer society. The faculties of the mind will have to be prepared to set its affections on things above, where Christ sitteth on the right hand of the Father. Carefully labor to obtain helpful knowledge to gain clarity of thought. The mind's ability to reason is strengthened by feeding it biblical truth and related objective facts. Individuals of this sort are patient, slow to speak, and not given to foolish theories as fact. Thus, their lives are founded upon the strength of relevant knowledge useful for operation within reality. Expansion. Application of mental discipline results in the expansion of the mind's abilities. It is impressive to watch a formative mind at work. It helps the rest of us to pretend such a mind exists solely based on gifts given at birth. While these minds were probably given unique gifts and abilities, it is also prudent to look at how they spent their childhood. We will find that more often than not, they were reading and writing while others were playing. Much of the mental development we so desire now, they went through when they were young. The modern lifestyle of the American child and teenager is tragic. They are encouraged to live relatively useless lives immersed in digital obscenity until they turn 18. Somehow this became the magical age in which responsibility for the future becomes relevant. They play sports, dance in recitals, or spend hours playing video games and engrossed in social media apps. They are taught by their parents and society at large to waste the first 18 years of their lives. Then, when the magical number hits suddenly, they are supposed to start making adult decisions. Children need to learn at an early age how to bring godly order to an acquired knowledge, preferably useful knowledge. The expansion of the mind requires us to engage information constructively, thereby producing knowledge. That knowledge can then be properly digested by the mind in such a way to make it substance gain to previous thought. Be willing to investigate ideas. Compare them one with another. Learn that ideas do not achieve validity based on agreement, but validity can be appropriately determined after substantial investigation. Only then will our previously possessed pool of knowledge be enhanced, eradicated, or adequately modified. The idea is not to collect useless information, but instead concern ourselves with worthwhile information and practical application. In this practice, the mind is effectively expanded in a profitable manner. I would guess we have all met people who have a mind full of useless knowledge. While they may entertain guests at social gatherings, they are otherwise worthless. This form of knowledge collection serves entertainment purposes, but has no bearing on life's crises. The Christian mind must operate with the seriousness of hell in view, not the value of entertaining guests. Diligently seek knowledge, reason it out, prove its validity, then make proper philosophical application to strengthen God's people. Effective expansion of the mind was once a marker of exceptional education. Universities at some time in the past imparted to hungry minds the depths of current knowledge. In this way, visions for the future could be crafted with measured comprehension rather than imaginative insanity. When visionaries of this sort are produced, societies are less inclined to conspiracy theories, political or scientific. Thus, a society of people who have developed sound minds girded by God's word and educated with factual knowledge are formidable people. This is a society in which wisdom and understanding are permitted to prevail. This idea is strikingly different from the current ideas forcefully propagated across societies today. Modern mentalities accuse reality of being bigoted. Definitions are amendable, gender is malleable, tolerance is intolerable, drug abuse is a disease, and responsibility is hateful. A world such as this is wretched and vile. Intellectual honesty is important to be honest. Refusal to approach facts with intellectual honesty is a brazen attempt to mislead. Once settled upon an opinion or idea, we should not be threatened by differing opinions or ideas. We should be capable of honestly receiving them, determining the motivations of the idea, understanding the eventual outcome, and resolving the authenticity of the idea. Only then can we respectfully deny false claims and explain why in a thorough and deferential fashion. Too many are prepared to rapidly dismiss their ideas simply due to the biases of their chosen narrative. Likewise, ideas are overly accepted when they agree with the chosen narrative. I would add here that a conservative Christian narrative is still nothing more than a chosen narrative. Narratives are dangerous. They are carefully selected catchphrases meant to propagate inflammatory ideas. Hyperbole is required to assist in propagating such narratives. Thus, emotions are inflamed, and facts are stretched or openly falsified in order to preserve the narrative. Develop the ability to identify lines of demarcation between truth and narrative. As far as the narrative propagates truth, it will be received. But we should never lend fidelity to untruthful narratives. I say again, truth and personal agreement are not the same. Do not mistake your desire for truth to fit a chosen religious or political view with the ultimate realities that truth might reveal. Be willing to admit when wrong, but also be willing to cling to that which is true, even if it proves you're wrong. Means of mental expansion. Proverbs 1:7, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. I understand this will cause conservative thinkers to struggle, but unfortunately, conservatism and Christianity are not the same. Conservatism leeches from Christianity, using it only when politically advantageous. Thus, our ability to gain knowledge and expand our minds will not be rooted in conservatism. Knowledge is an overall whole made up of several parts. The object of studying the parts is to understand the whole better. The overall implication of knowledge gained in our universe points us to a creator. He is separate from his creation, but the creation testifies of his existence. Creation is a witness. The heavens declare the glory of God, but the created must be willing to receive the knowledge of such natural declarations. Thus, our knowledge of God facilitates our knowledge of the universe. Whatever the starting point, the result for the honest student will be a knowledge of the truth. If creation's witness is received, then one is pointed to the God of the Bible. If the Bible came first, it just expedites a clear understanding of the universe. Whatever the particular discipline of study, beginning with a knowledge of God improves discovery and comprehension of truth. If this is so, and I believe it is, this has implications regarding the moral stature of the one searching for truth. I would not suggest they are required to be moral to receive truth. But receiving truth will play a role in moral development. If we see creation as the handiwork of a righteous God, this will have tremendous significance on individual morality. When people understand they are subject to a holy and righteous God, they begin to fear God. This means there may be preconditions to an ultimate ability to gain understanding. This would also explain why the most brilliant men can be fools. Do not confuse intellectual ability with wisdom and understanding. We also must not confuse the discovery of important information with the enlightening ability of revelation. This separates the bias of pushing a narrative from the patient mind in search of truth despite personal predilections. When knowledge is honestly gained, the peace and comfort it provides are valuable. When the narrative is pushed despite the truth, the shallowness of such a mindset will eventually shatter. Besides, what is the purpose of the discovery of knowledge? Self-gain, self-promotion, or self-indulgence? Would the God who instructed us to esteem others better than ourselves not have some higher purpose than the narratives of sinful men? Knowledge is a transcendent gift from God, one that should be cherished with careful stewardship. However, stewardship is the ultimate aim with regards to expanding the mind. What would you have your mind to do anyhow? Is not the perpetual search and use for knowledge the ultimate aim? If we are to love God with all our mind, at what point then should we put it to rest? When is it appropriate to relegate our minds to uselessness? Proper collection and use of knowledge develop our understanding of who man is and what he needs. One glaring indictment of this fact is the overwhelming trouble the people in our world find themselves in. God said, when the blind lead the blind, they both shall fall into the ditch. In our day, they have more than fallen into the ditch. They run circular laps therein, digging it deeper as they go. There is no doubt the bulk of any man's knowledge is given to him by way of revelation, either revelation from God to man or revelation from man to man. This idea notes the importance of making sure we choose whom we learn from carefully. Again, not for the sake of keeping the cherished narrative alive, but rather honest men who will impart what they know with unbiased integrity, even at our own intellectual peril. All subjects and disciplines fall into the natural boundaries set for them by God's word. For instance, Stephen C. Meyer, a geophysicist who also has a PhD in philosophy of science, recently shook the foundations of the scientific world. His books, Return of the God Hypothesis, Signature in the Cell, and Darwin's Doubt, calls God-hating academic intellectuals to reconsider the hypothesis of intelligent design. As Christians, I understand we already believe in intelligent design. But how exactly would we convey that fact to the academic world? Prior to the publication of Signature in the Cell and Darwin's Doubt, Meyer became well known for his peer-reviewed essay written for the Smithsonian Biology Journal. The essay laid out an objective empirical case for intelligent design. Meyer explained intelligent design as the best explanation for the origin of biological information necessary to produce the new forms of animal life that arose abruptly during the Cambrian explosion. Mathematically, the Cambrian explosion proved to be very problematic for the merits of Darwinian evolution. This article was the first peer-reviewed publication that argued for intelligent design in a technical journal. Somehow, it slipped through the well-guarded cracks. It proved highly controversial. The journal's editor was punished by his Smithsonian supervisors for allowing Meyer's article to print. This led to an investigation by top Smithsonian brass by U.S. government officials. The investigation was at the federal level and eventually concluded the editor had been wrongly disciplined and intimidated. This is a perfect example of controlling the narrative rather than receiving the truth. Meyer's work as a Christian in the world of science has done much to undermine the scientific merit of Darwinian evolution, but it has done very little to harm the religion Darwin left behind. Meyer is a man with the intellectual gifts, discipline to study, And he began with the forward-thinking presupposition that God created heaven and earth. As such, in short order, God used him to confound the wisdom of this world. Once facts are gathered, there must be a means of interpretation. Every individual's worldview fundamentally establishes this means of interpretation. Objective data means something very different for the Christian than for the evolutionist. We need God's help to make sense of the obvious facts. We can take a second example from biology. The same biology responsible for recent biological discoveries that verify intelligent design can also be cornered into teaching gender is malleable. No one knows this is untrue more technically than the biologist. But if his presuppositions are detached from the Creator, his facts can mean anything he wants them to mean. Truth means nothing without God. Knowledge becomes a tool of control in the hands of reprobate experts. As Christians, we will not be those people. Thank you for listening. God bless.
We hope you enjoyed this podcast. You can learn more about our ministry by visiting www.plenteousredemption.com. You can hear more Plenteous Redemption podcast audio at www.plenteousredemption.media. Please comment below if this podcast has been a help to you. Also, inform us of future topics that would interest you. Thank you again for listening to the Plenteous Redemption podcast.